Yeah.
I got a question for you, Gene.
Okay.
Are you a control freak?
Maybe.
I know the answer.
In certain aspects, yes, but in other aspects, no.
I can tell you're an interrupter. I can tell that. Gene, you are not a control freak.
Okay, thank you.
You let shit just slide by and go straight to hell,
Well, I love it.
and don't do a damn thing about it.
wait.
No, 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 no. Okay, we're gonna talk about it. I think you're a really swell fella. Let's do the show.
Good morning.
Hey, Gene.
Hey.
Oh, you poor bastard. I just remembered the whole hygiene thing, like from elementary school.
Yeah. I'm immune to it.
Okay. Well, the kids call me Casper because I was so pale, so we'll just trade
Oh,
trade stories.
that might be worse.
It was not
It's
nice.
pretty bad.
I was terrified to wear shorts.
Oh my goodness.
I thought they might call me the Invisible Man then.
He's just,
Gene, control freaks.
I've known a few.
Oh wow, that was almost like a Sinatra song.
Yeah, well, I was thinking,
Do we tolerate them? Are we them?
hmm, you are?
I don't know, man.
Hmm.
I think I am.
Uh-oh.
I mean, if you were to ask people like what it was like to work with me,
Okay.
I remember with Engine, we were doing when we went to award shows, we would dress up, right? We went as ninjas, we went as monks, we went as elves, we went as like whatever we thought. We went dressed up as mechanics for the first one because we were Engine, um, and I would be upset if we didn't have the right shoes,
Oh man.
like ninja toe shoes, the
Yeah.
whole deal. Like, and I wanted real weapons. Like, I went to a guy who had a martial arts store, and I said, "Can we just borrow these? I promise they'll come back with no blood,
It's not how we work.
totally clean." And he said, "Yeah."
Oh wow.
Oh well, yeah. I dropped him like $500.
Oh, well, there you go.
So there we go. But is that attention to detail or is that control freak? Right? It's like, it's is it a mindset that some of us just have? Is it?
Well, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Do you have those feelings about anything else other than costumes?
Yeah.
I just like what? Does it cause you anxiety?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it can be as simple as a word in a subject line of a newsletter. And I'm just like, I don't like that word.
Yeah.
Right. And it's got to drive people crazy. But the newsletter this week is all around being a control freak and some of the damage it can cause and how to like let go and step back. Because we mentioned this in that last episode. There's a real kind of undercurrent right now in the community of owners who are like, I want to step back. And I started thinking, but can you?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? It's not like you start something and you run it for 5 years or 2 years or 20 years and then you can suddenly go, you know what, I'm just going to let other people manage my offspring, because that's how we feel about a company
Right.
that started, right? I mean, had you this is a tough
Um,
one for me.
I have never. So let's set some definitions, right? I don't know what you're coming out with the newsletter, what the deal with it is, but
Yeah,
uh, I think there's a difference between caring about the outcome of something
there
to
you go.
where you step in, right? Especially if it's something that's sort of a big deal to you, or being a micromanager.
Right.
Okay,
And
I
is a
think
control freak and
there's a
a
huge
micromanager the
difference.
same? I don't think so.
I think it can kind of get confused between the two. I mean, if right, like if something not being right gives you anxiety, that can just simply mean that you care,
Yeah.
right? You care about the outcome, you care about the people impacted by the outcome, whatever. And I'm thinking this from an owner's standpoint. but there's a fine line between that and micromanaging people.
Right. So let's go with this. So some of the research I was looking at first of all, if you're watching this, I evidently have hair from the musical Grease. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on in the leather jacket.
Yeah, like an almost Ace Ventura thing going on.
I do. I just need to
little bird
out of an elephant's butt. That would be fine. And it wasn't an elephant. So I was going to say, I knew somebody get upset.
It's a rhinoceros.
There you go. So if I were to say a control freak, like what is the underlying conditions of somebody who's a control freak? And control freaks are going to want to redefine this, by the way. Just get ready for that. I would first say there's some underlying sense of fear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's definitely fear-based. And I think for me personally, that's because I have a huge fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am in control of everything, then at least I know where I think the demons are hiding, and I can try to get through that. But if somebody else does, what if they don't know, right? What if they're not able to? That to me, I think the fear is definitely the underlying thing. You think so?
Yeah, I think part of it, yes, because I think back to times when I've sort of become sort of a control, like there's like if you're having problems, like if there's something like you have a shortfall of cash, or there's some kind of project going off the rails or whatever, and you begin to like insert yourself or insert your control over the team or the project or whatever. Yeah, like when we were putting on events, I was very much kind of like early on the planning, I was like just kind of doing all of it, and it wasn't because I didn't trust the people we were working with. We're literally paying a company to work with us, but like I wanted to control all the details because I was, it's a lot of cash, so it's a big investment in an event up front, and I wanted to make sure it was going to work because I didn't want to flush my money down the toilet. So yeah, definitely fear-based.
So fear-based, and then anxiety. You mentioned anxiety. I think anxiety is a big part of it.
Well, yeah, the fear can cause the anxiety. I mean,
even my kids have picked up on some of this with me. One of the things I think is when you're a control freak, you have a vision of how something is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it could be that you have really high standards and you think nobody's going to be able to get these standards. Or it could be you've got an amazing idea of how it needs to be and you aren't communicating it correctly, or you're holding on to it.
Yeah.
And then people by nature, you're setting it up so that you can take everything back.
Right.
And I know I've done that. I mean, I learned most of what I know about events. I learned from you. I learned from Dan Denny.
Too bad.
I learned from going to places like South by or things like that, and just kind of, picking up on that. Going to theme parks have been a huge influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do have this vision of how I want it to come out. And I will say, I am lucky Lori never quit or Brett never punched me, because there were times where something would go wrong that was nobody's fault. But I was so anxious about it.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be because I didn't manage it. Right. And it could be that a bus had a funky smell on it. That happened once.
Yeah.
And you're like going, for all I know, that was somebody's, ate old lasagna and they're sitting in the back trying to get through it. You have no idea what's going to bring a bad smell onto a bus.
Right.
And you can't then just suddenly be, oh, well, we should never have hired this bus company. Right. You can't blame people for things that are out of everybody's control.
Right.
But as a control freak, it makes you want to bring things back in.
Right. But you have sort of owned it, right? You're owning it. You're seeing it and you're trying to sort of head it off. It's happening. And it's sort of up to you to how much you give into it.
Yeah.
No,
totally.
And I could see that. I can see that in you sometimes where you're like, I have this feelings. Because, you'll tell me some shit that you won't tell everyone else. When you'd be like, and I'm like, it's cool, and I could see you working on it. So I think that's awesome. I mean, You know, like you've got to generate your sense of quality and desire for quality from somewhere.
Mhm.
I think as a creator, as a leader, as a business owner, it's got to come from somewhere. You know?
And are you doing it for the betterment of the project or the event or the thing?
Yeah.
And if so, that's way different from doing it out of that sense of fear, or
Or a
it could
narcissistic
be,
tendency.
or a big ego,
Yeah.
right? And I acknowledge, like a lot of people think that I'm so wonderful, and it's true.
Well.
I'm amazing. But I definitely have an ego. I mean, and it's big. I have a feeling for what I want the bureau to be. I have a sense for
Right.
what I want
Yeah.
ownership to be. I have a sense for all these things. But I think two things woke me up. One was this happened at Engine, and as soon as the house fire story, and then I ended up not being, realizing, oh, I need to step back. I need to
Right.
not be in charge. Being important is a detriment to the company. And I think at the bureau, because of COVID, Lori and I were doing everything. Brett was offering to help. Brett comes in and helps some,
Hmm.
and now is getting more involved because then when my mom got sick, I had to bail. Made this big list of everything I do. People are grabbing different aspects of it.
Yeah.
Ambassadors, everybody else, and now I'm at this point. My mom's going home today, so thank God. And obviously that drama's not over. I mean that she's old.
Yeah.
Just sum it up. She's old. She's almost 90.
It's what people do.
It's what people do. This is that phase. But I'm not going to storm in and take everything back over.
Right.
You know why? Because it went fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Being in control makes you feel important. Being
Mhm.
important can feed your ego, and you defend that. You when other people come in that do good things, you can defend that.
Yeah.
But I think that the most important thing to focus on is the detriment you are bringing to your company and your team, if
Hmm.
that word is being used appropriately.
I think so.
All right, because when you get to that importance bottleneck, when you get to that control freak, you've got to come through this pass to get anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, your company can't grow anymore. I mean, you could look at Steve Jobs and you could say, well, I don't know, dude was pretty much a control freak. He told people no a bunch. Like there's, and
Yeah.
and and he did get kicked out at
Yeah.
one point.
Well, I never worked for Steve Jobs, but I I never
Did Steve Jobs ever work for you though?
well, I keep my iPhone's kind of acting up. Um where was I going with that? You threw me off track. I don't know that. I mean, yeah, he's sort of like the classic narcissistic, egocentric leader, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to argue with the output, the creative output of him being in control.
Well,
But I'm not. I've read extensively about him. I'm a pretty big fan. I never read anything about him doing the typical micromanager, like narcissistic micromanager
yeah.
things. Like he never wanted like constant updates and you know just got all involved in like how a guy was laying out a microchip or whatever. Like, but it was the bigger picture things, where it's like, why are you doing it that way? And the person would be like, well, it's because it's how we've always done it. And he's like, you're fired. That's dumb. I mean, so I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if the reaction was like quite on the level that it should have been, but you know, I, let's talk about that for a second. You
No, I
mentioned
think there's something to dig into
you
there.
mentioned ego, and I want to. Ego's not always bad.
No.
We throw it around a lot, like ego is a bad thing, and I think an ego, and I've used the word 3 times, and I kind of hate the word, but if you have this ego and it's to feed your narcissism, right, to feed your ability to feel better, and that's the sole reason why it's there, yeah, that's bad. But ego also makes us take on big projects. Ego is also what makes you do the bureau because you feel like you can do it.
Ego and confidence. So now we've got
Yeah.
know, if you've done something before and had success, that builds confidence.
Mhm.
Confidence isn't necessarily ego,
That's right.
right? And
I
back
think
to
it's the
John,
same. I think it's the same bucket. You're pulling out of the same bucket, but
yeah, I
I th-
would,
but you mentioned it earlier. It's the result. It's the why you're doing it. You know,
yeah,
if you're doing it for the betterment of the project or the betterment of the team, and that's real, and you can honestly ask that question and say yes. You know, I don't. It's kind of hard to argue with. You know, you sticking your nose into a project and being like, well, why is it like this? You
well,
know.
now there's a difference between controlling everything and just giving assignments and asking people to defend their position on
Hmm.
why they did something and even say defend, right? Like
Right.
present your case to me why this is better. If you're a control freak, you're probably not going to listen, even if
Yeah.
you're right. If
Yeah.
you are trying to do what is best for the organization,
Right.
what is
Right. Right.
the team, what is best for everybody, and they've got a strong point, then you're going to listen. I
Right.
don't know what Jobs reading the Isaacson book. I think that's the majority of what I know about him. Um, it sounded like he was a very advanced control freak who didn't care about the details because he was controlling the big picture.
Hmm.
Very unique individual. I don't think we can replicate that. Um,
No.
but to that point, how do you, if you can identify yourself as a control freak, which I think is in itself difficult, but if you're doing it, if you really look at it, and the reason you're telling everybody exactly what to do is you can say, I read the E Myth, and they said to make sure it's replicable, replicatable.
I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, but if it's out of fear, if you think you're the only one who knows how, if
Mm,
it's because um, you don't trust anybody.
mm.
If that's the cause, then you're stuck in time. You're like, you're a little mosquito in that amethyst. What? No. What would
Amber.
Amber? Thank you.
Damn, you in the movies today.
I don't know what's going on. I
You
just
just
want to
spend the
go
next
home.
2 weeks watching
I
80s
just want to
movies.
go home. Um, but the thing, and so I think part of it is we have to acknowledge our ego. We have to address our ego. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah.
ego is bad.
Right.
I'm saying there are parts of ego. If ego prevents you from doing something or hearing somebody, that's a challenge, right? But ego, I don't know, man. This is a whole nother episode
It kinda is.
about figuring out ego. But I think confidence, you don't want to lose your confidence. See, and that's one of the things I do. I think I feel like I can either be completely controlling all of this, or I just have to step all the way back,
Mm,
right? That has happened to me a lot in my life, but I think that you have to learn how to be able to engage and share the experiences that you have and the things that are going to make the project or the company or the team better without with being okay if
yeah.
people reject that with a rationale, with a strong rationale that you can agree to. But for me, this whole process, and I think this is also some stuff that you can find online, but you got to let go. I mean, you've got, and maybe start small, you know, maybe don't pick the movie that your family wants to go see that night. Or maybe it's just go for a walk in a random direction and don't have a plan for what you're going to see on the walk, right? Little things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, just this little stuff.
Are those things problems for you?
Not really.
Okay, well, cool. See, you're making progress.
I'm making progress. There are movies I don't want to see, and I'm not going to go
Of
see them.
course,
But
yeah.
that's the thing. It's not like you say, "Oh, well, yeah, let's go see Ouija Board 7." I'm back in the movies, and they've only made 4. Don't come at me. Um, Ouija board tonight. But yeah, I don't have that problem. If I want to be with the people, I want to be with the people. If there's
Mm,
something going on that I don't want to be a part of, I just opt out.
right.
Like that's part of being older, I think, is you're just like, yeah, I
Yeah,
got like so much time left. I'm not going to waste it going
yeah.
here. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, from, like, your spectrum of life, like, like, early on in life, we tend to do things based on what we want people to notice and what we want people to see.
yeah,
As you
we're
get
trying to
older,
get recognition.
yeah, and as you get older, you realize they're not looking at you.
Mm-mm.
they don't even know you're there.
No, they're
They
not.
don't.
And
Yeah.
if we can acknowledge that we can't control everything, like if you were to ask somebody, can you control everything? They'd be like, no. They're like, okay, then just take that with you
Yeah. Yeah.
in every situation.
Right.
And it gets back to, I'm blocking on the author's name now, but that concept of your sphere of influence, like don't try to affect things that are outside of your ability to impact, right?
Right. Right.
Like you may be able to make a small difference in climate change by recycling in your local town. You can maybe make a difference. You can get in. You can talk to the city council or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
But you're never going to stop the ocean from getting warmer.
Right. Not
It's like not just you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we have to acknowledge that we can't do everything. And again, it's like start small. Being a control freak is a little bit of an addiction,
It
and
can be.
you have to give it up a little bit at a time, and trust those people that you've surrounded yourself with.
That's
And
right.
you may have to hire new people.
Yeah.
It may be you've been managing this. The one that I think owners are the slowest to let go of is bookkeeping.
Yeah.
They may have somebody who's doing the balancing, and they may have somebody who's doing the taxes and stuff, but they want to send the invoices. Right?
Wow. Yeah. That's true.
Am I wrong?
No.
I think that's a huge one. And I think also probably payroll. I think they get worried about somebody seeing what they make. Or they like, who am I going to trust that's going to be able to do this when I say I need to take a draw, or I need to,
Right.
get a raise? Or I think that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge. But if you're going to give yourself a break, because being a control freak is detrimental to your mental health and your physical health, causes a shit ton of stress on you and other people. It's going to hurt your relationships. I mean, I think we're going into a hot take, Gene. I just felt it.
It feels a little warm.
Gene, ready for a hot take?
I've been ready.
Well, as a control freak, I'm ready. All right, kids. Stop hurting yourself. Stop hurting your team. You don't have to be in control of everything. Trust the people that you've hired. You are hurting relationships if you don't. You are hurting your mental and your physical health if you don't. And you're hurting your future. Because if you can't let go of sending out the invoices, how the hell are you going to decide the direction of the company 10 years from now? Because you're in the weeds. So stand up, step back, and take a look at the big picture and trust the people that you've hired to take care of the things they know how to do.
Boom. That was good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about it.
You just pulled the pin on that one.
Uh-oh. That sounds like something's going to explode.
The hand grenade. A little bit. You probably just called some people out.
I did. Well, I was looking at myself the whole time I was saying it. So. All right, Gene.
All right, man. Until next time.
Until we meet again. Sayonara, sister.